I always enjoy the music when I come in, and when it stops, I'm always a little sad. So happy Thursday, everybody. I hope everybody is doing well. And so, look, we are now officially starting to wind down. So, number one, I just want to start off always by just saying thank you all for being present over the course of these last 10 weeks and now on to week 11. And it's been a really interesting journey just to watch how the market has shifted so much from the time we started till now, right? And if you think about the sentiments of people and a buyer, a couple of things to keep in mind, right? And the same thing for sellers. Number one is have good emotional intelligence. And when I talk about emotional intelligence, look, the reality is on January, $3,500 got you an $804,000 mortgage. Today, that same $3,500 gets you a little less than, I would say, around 625. Now, if you are buying something and that's how you felt, would that be a good feeling? Yes or no? No. So please don't say things like it's still hysterically low, because the reality is it was not that long ago that it was literally almost half the price. Number two, managing people's expectations. Sellers eventually are going to have to take less money, which leads us to our session today, which means they're going to come after your commission. Who's seen commissions being compressed in their market? It's happening, right? And one of the things that I know is this is a skill that you must learn. And the best part about actually learning how to have these conversations is they're really not complicated. Learning how to handle commission objections is probably one of the most simple things that you can do. Now, the problem is no one has actually taught you how to do it. Now, when we go through our session today, we're going to walk through the framework of doing it. We're going to go through some real life examples. I think it'll be very clear to everyone how to do it. Sound good? Let me share my screen. All right, so we're going to go through the keys of an effective conversation again in terms of commission cutting, defending your commission, scripts, and how we can continue our journey together. Now, remember this, cutting commission. Whether someone wants to pay you the commission you charge or the one they have in their mind, it's always their choice. Now, when someone says, will you do it for less? When you start asking them questions, you control the conversation. If what you're sharing is not in their benefit and you can't help them see that benefit through asking questions, you will never get the money you want. And if you're not in agreement with what they want, right? Protagonist, antagonist, or protagonist helps somebody get what they want. The antagonist works against what they want. So you have to get clear as to what they really want, because you always have to be in agreement with the client. No telling, no explaining, no being combative. When you start telling people, do you see all the marketing I do? Well, that's telling somebody. If they saw all the marketing you do and the value in it, do you think they might be asking you for less? Maybe yes, maybe no. Brooke, if they can't see my screen, just let me know. I saw a chat pop up. Never show you're attached to any specific outcome. When it comes to money, commission, and sales, the more attached it seems you are to it, the more reluctant the people will be to give it to you. I always look at some of these things like dating, right? Like if you're smothering someone for something, odds are it's probably not going to happen, right? So ultimately, the last one, and this is the most important one, what they choose to do does not mean you have to make a compromise. Excuse me. Now, look, if somebody only wants to pay 4%, 5%, depending on what market you're in, that is their choice. That doesn't mean that you have to compromise your service, the time you put in, and most importantly, feel any less valuable. What someone chooses to pay is their choice. It's your choice as a consumer. It's their choice as a homeowner. It is no reflection of you. Now, here are the basics. Now, these are the mindsets and things that you need to understand how this happens. Commission objections are simply a question, right? It's a question that somebody's asking you. Will you do it for less? And then we all like, but I do this and I have this and I have concierge and I have all this stuff. And how can I negotiate for you if I can't negotiate? There's all this stuff is crazy, right? Now, number two, being unclear in your value and what you offer in many cases is why sellers ask for a discount. If it's not clear to them what they're getting from you, they don't know what they're paying for. So they could ask for less. Avoid the car salesman lines. There's certain things that sound absolutely ridiculous that worked in 1990, excuse me, that people still do today. Support them 100%. Regardless of what they do, you still should support the people because it's always their choice. Learn how to put this back on the seller. Flip it on them. See where their focus is. And what happens if you overprice the listing? Here's a little secret about commission cutters. Commission cutters are generally serial overpricers because they're into buying listings. And the last one is be okay walking away. Now, commission objections are simply a question. So if you see my screen here, the bigger letters on this beautiful Cadillac Escalade say from $77,795. And then those little itty bitty letters, it says as shown $102,220. Now, if you're going and someone is a car salesman, right? I'm selling you this car and everything else. And I'm telling you, yeah, you can have this car. It's going to be $120,000. You're going to say, wait, like, what about the $77,000 car? What's the difference? Now, in that scenario, it's a difference between when someone says, oh, I charge 6%. Well, John at Coldwell Banker said he'd do it for 5%. It's a question. They don't understand the gap, right? And what's the gap? The difference in the 5 to 6%. In this example here, people are like, wait a second. I thought you said the car is going to be $78,000, and now you're telling me it's $102,000. What's the difference? That is the same concept as people that are cutting your commission. It's a question. They're understanding what the value is and what's the difference between what John offers at 5% and what Chirag offers at 6% as a Compass agent. It is a question. So when people ask us questions, our emotional intelligence, our physiology, the way we react, our tonality, all of those things are important. And the only way to really get these things down is by practicing them. You just stay calm. Okay, great. I'm happy to go through that with you. Now, being unclear in your value equals the seller asking for a discount. Now, start thinking about this. Perceive value, what you feel you offer. Actualize value, what the seller feels they're getting. Has anyone hit yes in the chat box? Has anyone ever shared something with you where it's like you look at all this stuff, you really don't know what you're getting? It could seem like a lot, but it also feels overwhelming and you leave a little confused. Hit yes if that's ever happened to you. So several of us have had this happen. I think it happens to more people than they realize, because when we start talking to people on a pitch, think about it. We go through our marketing plan, we go through our company, we go through who we are and what we're going to do. There's so much stuff. And if they're not actualizing this and you're not using sales strategies like anchoring statements, getting their buy-in, getting them to agreement, having them become part of the process, right? The biggest part about commission objections, it has to actually do with your listing pitch, right? And dialing in your value proposition. So if you feel you have all this stuff to offer and they don't think you have anything to offer, there's the disconnect, right? Perceive value, actualize value. So a note that everyone should make on this page is look at how you're presenting your marketing, your communication plans, right? You should have a written marketing plan, a written communication plan. So it's very clear to the seller what they get when they pay you the money, right? Think of these. I always ask people this. Go back and ask your clients these 3 questions. Do you understand what you paid your agent to do and for in the transaction? No. Was it clear to you how they would market your home before it went on the market, while it was on the market, during the process? No. Was it clear to you how they'd communicate with you from the time they signed the agreement to the time they prepped your home for sale, the time the house went for sale, during the sales process, when it went into contract, and up till closing? No. So then do you actually even understand what you paid for? No. So these are all opportunities we have in this whole new market. Look, people talk recession, reset, inflation, high interest rates. What I see for all of us is opportunity, 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 opportunity. Because I don't know another group of people that spent the last 10 weeks learning really how to talk to people. The simple thing in all this is these are just conversations. I think these are my favorites. Avoid the car salesman's line. Please, if I could nail one thing to all of you, never say this to another person again. If a broker can't negotiate their own commission, how are they going to negotiate for your listing? That's just crazy. It makes no sense. In 1990, and maybe it's even 2000, that line worked really well. But the world has changed and people are infinitely smarter. That's not going to work. That's not going to make somebody feel good about paying you. It's like one of those things that give you an icky feeling. You see all the marketing we do? No, they don't see all the marketing you do, because if they did, they wouldn't be questioning it. Other brokers are not going to. Now, by putting other people down, that never raises you up. Now, these three things for clients are all triggers. You've taken that good relationship, that whole process that you worked really hard to build up rapport and trust and credibility, it all goes out the window. Because when you say these three things, all they think is that you care about money. You don't care about them. Support them 100%. I always tell people, even you're talking to us about a coaching program or whatever it is you choose to do, I want you to know whatever you decide to do, I support you 100%. And then I will start the conversation. Now, what this essentially is doing is gives another person the permission to be wrong, right? Like if you support them 100%, there's no right, there's no wrong. They can be wrong. They can say, all right, I can do this. Might not be right in your eyes, but you're still supporting them. This actually takes the combative nature out of any conversation. Put it back on the seller. Now, let's get a little more tactical here. So somebody says to me, you know, I really like what you have to offer and we really want to work with you. You know, John at Coldwell Banker said that he would do it for 5%. Would you do that too? Now, this is how you put it back on the seller. I'd say, you know, homeowner, I know your time is valuable. And if you met John from Coldwell Banker and you're happy with his marketing plan and the commission he charged, what specifically made you invite me over here this evening? And I would just sit there quietly. See, we just flipped the whole scenario. Now they're going to have to explain to you what the difference was. Because the reality is, if the broker was great and they did like what he did, why'd they go meet more people? And there are only so many different scenarios, right, that these things lead to. And this is why it's really important to catalog in a sheet what people are saying to you. So eventually you have like a few different talk tracks. You kind of have an idea how these conversations get mapped out. And when it comes to commission, these things never change. There's only so many different things that people could say. But it's really good to put it back on them instead of like being very defensive, where you're either telling, explaining, or whether you realize it or not, being combative. What is their focus? Now, this is one of my favorite things. Let me grab a piece of paper and actually do this for you all. Now, when you're doing this with people, the key to doing this is getting them to actually see this, right? Now, there are people that will only be focused on saving money. That will be their sole goal, right? Have you ever met those clients that the idea of just getting some form of a deal, in essence, to them because of their psychology, is more important than actually what they're doing? because some people are mentally incapable of doing things unless they feel like they got the better end of the transaction. So someone would say, you know, John at Coldwell Banker is willing to do it for 5%. And I would say, great. My question to them is, let me ask you a question. How many things can you focus on at once? And it's a trick question. They're going to say one. You're going to say, great. Now I would draw this out like this. Say the house is $1 million. I'd write $1 million here, right? Say, all right. So I'd say your home's worth $1 million. And you're going to say yes. So I'm going to say, what do you want to focus on? Maximizing your $1 million. Or how you could save $10,000. Whichever you choose to do, I support you 100%. Our goal, our marketing, and everything we do is help you to maximize and potentially get more equity out of your house and focus on the $1 million. If your choice as the owner of this home is to focus on how you could save $10,000 and the commission that someone charges you is most important, that's your choice, and I'd support you 100%, but what do you think will work out best for you? And when you draw this out for people and they actually see like, wow, really I'm focusing on maximizing $1 million or $10,000, depending on the people's personality types. You have to know who you're doing this with. They start to realize like, well, this is kind of stupid. Like if I'm selling something for $1 million, I really want to try to focus on that 1%. Maximizing their equity or savings commissions. Now, here's why knowing the data is important. What happens if you overprice the listing? Commission cutters are generally overpricers. Now, think about this. How many times do you see multiple price drops, right? So if I were going into the listing pitch, I would look at some of these other places, right? And you can always find listings that have discounted commissions that have had multiple price drops. And that's something you actually want to show the clients, right? These homes have had multiple different price drops. Now, ask them, if your home was $1 million and say you're purchasing a home, for $1 million, and I discounted the home by $10,000, would that make you excited to buy it like it was on sale? No. 2%, $20,000, would that make you excited? They're going to say no. You generally get to 5 to 7% before the person says, yeah, you know what, that would make it more appealing, right? So when you flip it and you say, if they're a buyer, you're going to say, great. So if you do list your house and try to save money and you're overpromised the market, you could potentially lose more than you try to save. And there's so much data that backs this up. So you have to be aware of what this is. And also, if people are overpricing homes in that market area, how many price reductions on average it takes to get to a sale. So these things are all generally correlated. But again, this is why you have to look for the patterns in things, right? As you look for the patterns in things, you're going to see new things. Be okay with walking away. You know, be firm in what you offer and be okay walking away. The more the seller sees you're tied to the listing and your commission, the more likely you are to compromise. So if you look at commission cutting, it's actually really, really simple. If you can follow the 7 keys to an effective conversation, you could follow this roadmap we have. It becomes really easy. Now, practice makes perfect. Now, I'm going to do a couple live role plays, but I want to walk you through a couple different scenarios. John said he would do it for less, right? In that scenario, you say, great, you know, I appreciate you sharing that with me. And would you mind if I ask you a question? And they're going to say, sure. You know, if you're happy with your time, I would start off by saying, you know, I understand your time is very valuable. And if you're happy with John's marketing plan and what he charged in commission, what specifically had you take the time to meet with me this evening? And let them answer. And that's how that conversation goes. So now there is nobody else. You go through the whole process. Chirag, I love what you have to offer. Would you do it for 5%? Like, would you do it for less? And this is where You don't even know sometimes. Someone's just asking is a very routine conversation. Remember, no telling, no explain, no combative. Well, with all the marketing we do, we can't, like, you just start justifying it and you start going into a rabbit hole, which just makes you look bad, right? Can you do it for less? No. Do you have any other questions? Just practice saying that. Can you do it for less? No. Do you have any other questions? And the other thing is, if you don't feel confident doing that, I always say, like, loop your manager in and be like, hey, look, it's not my decision. I can ask my manager. I text my manager. I'm going to send you an email later. Can you just politely say that we don't do that? And get support from leadership. We only want to pay X percent. Great. What specifically is important to you about only paying X percent? And again, that goes back to this, right? And don't start with well, it doesn't matter how much you pay, it matters how much you net. Well, that's the outcome of the conversation. When people say we only want to pay X, what specifically is important to you about that? That's the first question. The second one is, by paying X, what do you think will happen for you as a result of doing it? And if you ended up paying more, what might not happen? And those three things are part of people's decision-making matrix, and you can get down to the real core of their motivation. Will you cut your commission if you represent both sides of the deal? This is where I always say to be flexible, right? Like, everyone wants to get something in a negotiation, and I think this is a good place to give. But again, that's your choice, right? Part of great marketing is attracting your own buyers. So let's go through some real life examples. Now, who has questions, right? I understand I went through that relatively quickly, and that was on purpose, because I want to hear from all of you where you get stuck, where you have questions, how this actually shows up for you, because whoever actually will talk, there's 15, 20 other people generally have the same question. So feel free to unmute yourself. Oh, the drawing. Oops. Oh. We'll make, so the goal of the drawing is to write the list price out really big, right? And I would point to them and say, okay, so this is the value of your home, and they're going to say yes. So look, do you want to focus on maximizing as much as we can get out of this? Or I would write the or, and then in small letters, write the 1% that they're probably trying to save in commission. Okay. In terms of just handling paperwork for transactions, I don't know much about that, as there are different policies in local offices. So I don't know how that works at Compass in your market, or even at Compass Corporate. In any of the markets I've worked in, they never had someone to just, when you say handle paperwork, does that mean that they found their own direct buyer and that they just want you to manage their process? I would charge them half the commission, right? And the second part of that is realizing, even though you're just managing the paperwork and they find it, you still have to communicate with both parties, right? If the buyer is unrepresented, you're really representing both of them. So be mindful when you're doing this. If the buyer does not have an agent, you're going to be doing double the work. Now, charging more for concierge, right? And when you want to charge more for concierge, that's again a choice, right? You're going to say, one of the benefits of working with me are the additional services. Do not call concierge a program. Don't do it. No one likes a program, right? Now think about it. If I'm paying you, or say you're paying us, as many different services as I give you, aren't you guys happy? Of course you are. If someone says, what does a written communication plan look like? And I'm like, hey, part of my services, we have a whole library of these materials. Just go in there and you can access them there. You all would be very happy. A program implies other terms, conditions, and incentives. A service implies something being done for you, right? So in terms of extensive concierge work, you can tell someone like this, you have to give them a choice. You could say, look, we're happy to front the money, put you in touch with all the vendors, and you'll have to meet the vendors, get the estimates, and have a written scope of what it is that's done, right? Because again, perceived value, actualized value. They don't understand all the how much work I'm doing into it. That's a you problem. That's not a them problem. It is not their job to understand what you do with contractors and all these other stuff. That's what they're hiring you for. So you can say 0 to 1, we can do this for you with concierge. Now, the second part is if you would like us to offer these additional services, meeting the contractors, coordinating estimates, negotiating estimates, and blah, 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 whatever it is, we charge an additional blank percent. You could manage it on your own, or you could have us do it. So those are the different ways of doing it. You got to always give them a choice. So look, again, this is, you guys got to unmute yourself. You guys could talk. We don't have to all write in the chat box. Let's see. Hold on. Listen, with people charging commissions a choice, Gene, in different markets, commissions are being compressed, right? And if you're in Short Hills, New Jersey, from what I understand about your market, properties literally sell in 10 seconds. Like they go very quickly. They're going hundreds of thousands of dollars above asking. So this is what people are doing, right? So you have to also, a big part of commission cutting is being aware of what other people are doing in the market. You could have the best sales scripts in the world, but when people know a house is going to sell quickly, it's really hard from 4% to 6% justifying somebody paying you 50% more. The program versus service works really well. Okay, so people are asking about marketing plans and communication plans, correct? Go, as part of this program, all of you have access to our Delivering the Perfect Pitch video. There's a whole series of them. Inside of those videos, there's about 26 of them. It shows you exactly what to say and how to present what you're offering. When I say a written marketing plan, literally you can get a keynote template, a calendar template, and literally fill it out, right? Now think about it. Luxury, true luxury, is something you're willing to pay handsomely for that you know you can't do on your own. So if someone sends me a calendar that says, okay, if I was an agent today, and I was pick on Liz because I know her here from my local town here in Westport, and I was selling Liz's house, clarity equals confidence, right? Write that down. Clarity equals confidence. Most of you sell to people that have families, I would assume. And even if you don't, they're probably busy business professionals, or they're probably people that are empty nesters. All three of those people are busy with kids. It's chaotic. If you work, you're busy, you're professional, everything works on a schedule. If you're an empty nester or you're an old or senior person, you know, this whole world goes so fast, everything needs to be slowed down. Now think about it. Think about the point of distinction. If you took the time to make a calendar for your clients every single time that says, this is the day the photographer is going to come. This is the day the stager is going to come. This is when the video is going to come. This is the meeting we're going to have to review all of your marketing materials before we launch. This is your first open house. This is our weekly communication touch point. We'll lock it in now for the next 60 days because that's how long your house should take to sell. Now, does that create a completely different experience for your client than what everyone else does? 100%, right? So in a world where Compass, like if you're in San Francisco, literally half the market is Compass agents. So how do you compete with people that all offer the same thing? Clarity. Clarity is how you do it. I believe that I could go into the same place as all of you and I could win the majority of my pitches because I can make things simple for people. I can make things clear. I can put them in writing, and I'll never make anyone feel like they're being pushed into a sale. It doesn't matter. Everyone wants to be somewhere by choice. And what I've learned out of being an agent and somebody who's gone through a lot of sales training, I know a lot about psychology, I could influence people into doing things. right? And what I've learned out of doing that is it's a horrible idea. And here's why it's a horrible idea, because they didn't want to do it in the first place. And the problems of why they didn't want to do it, that maybe their bad attitudes or reluctancy or whatever it is, it shows up in the future. And then their problems now all become my problems, right? So you convince a seller to list at a price that they don't want to. They fight you the whole time, and eventually it turns into something else. You won in that moment. Great salespeople know how to ask questions to get people to a place that they need to be on their own. You have to remember, people's brains are here and they need to be brought here. We can't just start here and get them to here. That's the problem with commissions, right? Do you see kind of how this whole arc that we created about understanding the difference in the car and not being combative and supporting them 100%, letting them know that their time is valuable, not like, my time is really valuable. You know why? Like, no, it's all about them. It's all about them. And you ever meet somebody and you have that feeling like, oh, this is the right person for me, right? Like, I want to work with this person. That's why they've created an atmosphere where you can be yourself, where it feels okay, whether you say the right thing or the wrong thing. There is no such thing. And that's what you want to do with your clients. Look, as this world shifts, right? If you've heard me on any of the webinars, any of the stuff we're talking about, I keep talking about this changing market, because my goal is for all of us is to be ahead. As an industry, we constantly pay for behind, right? So we know that these conversations are coming. We know that people are going to start cutting their commissions. We know that we're no longer competing against each other. We're competing against technology and the information that these people have access to for free. So remember that clarity equals confidence. Practice will make this easier and make other people feel better, right? And documenting our scenarios will allow us to master these skills that will own them forever. In my Chirag Shah, Martin Luther King, I have a dream speech for coaching. My I have a dream is that agents document everything that they do in a day, meaning what are all their challenges, and that they strategically put into their schedule to learn these things one by one. So where each year it's like riding a bicycle. You learn the skill, you own it, you just keep moving on. And if you focus on doing these things compounded for several years, you'll be so much ahead of everybody else. People keep doing things the same way, and when things get taken away from them is the only time they change. Does that sound about right for people who've been in real estate a long time? We're always late to the party. Why do you think all this technology stuff happens, right? Could you imagine financial planners not giving you the value of your portfolio every year? Houses are worth a lot more than people's portfolios. We don't even do that for our clients. This is how all this stuff started. So to know where we're going, you got to know where we've been. So keep putting in your questions here related to commissions. Does anyone want to do a live role play? I always find this fun. It's like people you think you're so good at this. It's kind of put your money where your mouth is. So I'd be happy to do this live with anybody. If not, I'm going to walk you through kind of these 8 steps again and make sure that you have it, right? And if there isn't a volunteer, here's what I'm going to tell you. Don't be a car salesman. Do not start with any of these. Do you know the marketing do any of the marketing we do? We do all this marketing. If you're explaining your commission to people, you already lost. You're done. If I can't negotiate my commission, that just makes no sense. That has no logical meaning. Liz, you have a question?
Oh, wait. Okay. I wasn't letting me. Yeah, I have a question. So when asked about commission in the first listing pitch or conversation, sometimes I'll say, I charge 3%, and it's up to you what you want to put out to the buy side. What do you think about that?
How do people respond to it?
Really well.
Then keep doing it.
Really well. Yeah.
But what you want to do, see, here's a good example. When things are working really well, do you know what you're looking for?
What do you mean?
So when things are going really well,
you mean agreement from the other side?
No, you want to break everything, right? I have friends that are just send me things that are going really well. They'll send me a web link and literally the subject line just says break it. And I'm like, all right, cool. I'll go in there and I'm literally looking for problems. So when things are going well, Tony Robbins calls it that 1 millimeter rule. It's those little things that you improve. So now what you're doing, if it works really well, keep doing it. Now, every single time that someone gets confused, they don't understand, they need clarifying points like, is this all that you charge? Can I give out 1% or whatever it is, right? You want to start cataloging all of those questions. So now as time goes on, you can improve and improve and improve and improve. And that's like the next step if you're doing it that way in any one step. Liz, what do you say if a client says, I want to give the buyer's agent 1%?
Then I will walk them through what is standard in the area and
Don't use the word
price.
standard. That's a
Oh.
violation of the Sherman Antitrust Act and implies price collusion and fixing. No, people are recording things and suing realtors. So any of you use the word standard commission, it's a violation of the Sherman Antitrust Act. And if somebody records you, you will 100% lose your license.
I've never had anybody say the 1%. So then what I would do, because you know, my computer might be open, we're looking at comps, and I would just then review what other agents are putting out on the buy side for the price point in the area.
So
And I would make, and I make a suggestion between 2 and 3%.
So here's what I would say. This is what we recommend. Let's go through in your price point. Now, if this is her strategy, this is what I'd always do. I'd print out every active home on the market and I would highlight the buyer's agent's commission. And I would say, look, if you're an agent and this is what you saw, where do you think in commission you should offer out to a buyer? And ask them the question, show them the stuff. If they say 1%, great. Now let's see how your 1% compares to what everyone else is doing. Now go through the whole thing with them. Don't say anything. This one charges 2, this one charges 3, this one charges 2.5. You could say, if you were an agent, would you have an incentive to show this home over any others? Or do you like get your questions down? Let them say, oh yeah, you know what? No one's really going to want to do that, right? Like let them do it. But here's the reality. If they charged only 1% and they were really aggressive on their price, someone would still buy their home.
But I never show a house based on the commission being offered. Like my buyer dictates that. So, you know what I mean?
That's because you have integrity. I'm telling you, like one of the great benefits I learned was when I worked on an MLS board. I was a vice president for 2 years. I was the treasurer of MLS for 2 years, and I chaired this young professional network where we went from like literally 12 people to well over 1,000 just teaching classes. And the cockamamie stuff that I seen these people do and talk about and say, it was the most mind-blowing thing I ever did. I used to go home like I was in like my mid to late 20s. I would go to my parents. I'm like, how do people work like this? And then finally, my dad says to me, he goes, values. He goes, what? He goes, we raised you with good values. Not everyone has the same values. He goes, you have to understand that. I was like, oh, okay. Like that's, but look, here's the other part of that. When you don't do your job every day and proactively reach out for new business, you become desperate, right? So Fritz has a question. He says, with this strategy, Liz, you lock yourself for 3% if direct buyers come to you.
Well, the thing about direct buyers in Connecticut, if I'm the listing agent, right, and a buyer comes in, I've already stated on the MLS, it's not a variable rate commission. I cannot reduce my commission on the buy side. So I can't do that, right? It's not a level playing field. So if I declare that up front, that it's a variable rate commission, that as a buyer's agent is a bit of a red flag for me, because I know if I bring a buyer to that listing, that listing agent is incentivized if they have a buyer to take that offer, because then the commission is reduced. Does that make sense? Did I explain that? So I tend to go more towards the direct buy being, I'm going to be doing 2 jobs, both sides. So I don't reduce.
It's a lot of work, you know.
It's a lot of work.
Double sides. I'll tell you this, while this is a dialogue, is that when you cut your commission to do both sides, you're literally doing two full-time jobs, like managing buyer expectations, opening the door, going to these appointments, doing this stuff. You're doing a full other person's job. That's why a lot of agents are like, you know what, have another agent. It'll save me more time. I have a couple more questions. A low buy side commission often feels like a reflection on the listing agent, makes the buyer's agent feel like that's something they might not want to work with. Look, in the end, you can, perception is reality. You can perceive these, Gene, in 100 different ways. What I want us all to focus on is choice, right? What are we going to choose to do? How are we going to apply strategy? You know, I think one of the best compliments I ever got from a coach was from Robert Refkin. You know, an agent in New York City some time ago, when they had all these meetings at HQ and they're just getting people together, they asked Robert, they go, why does your company promote Chirag so much? Right? There's literally her question in front of a room full of maybe 100 some odd people. And he says, you know, if I was an agent, I would join several different programs. He says, you know, he's like, I would work personally with one or two coaches. And he goes, here's the difference. He's like, I either work with Chirag or Steve Shaw. And he's like, the thing with Chirag is if you want to have a better business and a better life and have someone apply strategy to your business, Chirag's your guy. Very focused on strategies. You see all these things, like we have concepts and everything else like that, but we have strategy. How do we take what we do and think through it more strategically? I'll never tell you, hey, just learn how to say this one thing. It's like, no, here's how you say the thing. Here's how you think through the next steps. Here's how you own the skill. And here's quantifiably how to make you more money every year. Think about it. If you can save one commission deal at 1%, that's $10,000 or more a year for most of us, easily, right? Now think about it. Over 10 years, that's at least $100,000, assuming this only happens one time a year, which happens some more. But like, if you start strategically thinking about that, like how many $10,000 mistakes can I fix? You can get to a lot of different stuff. So look, we have our last session next week, and I want to do a recap. I want it to be more of a Q&A, and I'm going to share it with you guys now. If anyone wants to drop off, feel free. We've had, Deborah's been reaching out, and one, thank you all for such great feedback. And many of you have asked, and this was, I guess, a good segment into this, is perceived value versus actualized value. People like, what is this playbook? Can you explain it to me? Can you make it simpler for me? And we have so much in there, just like many of the times when you go to your clients. I want to break it down into a simple method and kind of where our mindset is, because, you know, I see the world shifting, right? Like, raise your hand if you see changes happening, right? Now, at first, we were going to open this program up to everybody, right? And now you'll be the first people I share this with. We have our webinar today with, I think, over 500 people. So if you aren't hopping on to see Matt at 1 o'clock, I really should. Matt's going to share with you how he built a $300 million business. Matt's a dear friend, a client, and someone who's just, I call him the mad scientist. But what we realized is community is the most important thing. And, you know, if you talk about learning from reality, what I learned during COVID was having a tight-knit group of people really focused on learning the same thing and having them spend more time with each other was the biggest thing that came out of it. Now, I see this market shift being what I call a skill market, right? People that have strategy and skills will win, right? Like, flat out, right? Like, people are going to pull back, right? So let me share with you kind of what our plan is, and maybe it aligns with what you'd like to do as well. When we start talking about coaching, it's the concept of coaching forward. Like, we spent a lot of time talking about how not to think back. I muted myself. You know, when you think about this playbook, it's really the future-proof playbook. Like, how do we stay in the future so we have a predictable, profitable, and scalable business, no matter the market condition, right? Like, if you look at investors, they make the most money in down markets. And here's my question: can I be your coach? Because what I realize is, in all of these conversations, I get the same question all the time. Can you coach me? Well, what should I do? And that's when we realize that we need to change our approach. So the number 250, there's 250 new principals that we're going to let into this community where I can coach them, right? And why do I pick this number? It's a good enough number amongst principal agents, team leaders, team members come with their teams, so they don't count towards the head count, but it's really about building community. We have obviously people that run accountability sessions, myself, we have a brand new office space opening. When you talk about live events, accountability sessions, role play sessions, community, 250 people around the country will build a solid community for the next 6 months. So once we hit our number, the playbook's closed for 6 months and we'll reopen it in January. But our focus is, as this economy and this world changes, we want to be able to support everyone together. And imagine I could be your coach, right? Imagine that I could plan for you coaching backwards and coaching forwards, right? Like, we do have the best lead generation strategies. Here's one thing that I'll share with you guys today. All of my best clients, from Matt to Ben Moss to Stacy Froelich. Ben was one of the top 10 teams in Florida. Stacy's one of the top 50 teams in Manhattan. Matt's one of the top 50 teams in the country. They've all agreed in the first 8 weeks of this program to share their best lead generation secrets with everybody. So the nice part about this whole Can I Be Your Coach is I really want to curate a system for you where you get the best of everything you need to grow your business, whether you're a team leader, team member, or an individual agent. Now, that's all backwards, right? It's like things that you know you need to solve for. Now, coaching forward. Now, how do we stay ahead? Well, it's having ongoing calls that talk about recession, reset, low inventory, changing market, new compass tools. As these new things come out, almost in real time, we're going to be updating training. So if we see that there's a big shift in the economy, our job is to create training videos, scripts, and host a live session so you guys are prepared in real time. Because I realize with all these changes, if no one is here to do this for you, this is how people start losing before they even start thinking forward. Now, we know that these are the 5 areas in the model. How do you perfect your pitch? Like, really, how do you talk about Compass to buyers and sellers and what you offer? How do you generate leads consistently and predictably? How do you obsess over client experience? And really pillars to profitability. How do you build a profitable business? I know that every person needs a great tax planner. So once a month, I'm going to be interviewing a tax planner that generally charges, I think, $600-700 an hour, that myself and a whole group of our top clients use on actual tax strategies. So like the difference between a tax planner and an accountant is an accountant looks backwards at the end of the year trying to figure out savings, and a planner is a planner. We are planning throughout the year. And the Compass platform, everything we do is specific to Compass. So all of our trainings, our conversations, our written marketing plans, all build in the Compass tools. And as the new tools come out, like when Client Dashboard comes out, I'm already speaking with Compass and understanding how fast I can make training for all of you on how to implement it into your business. So the way that I think about this is, for the people who choose to join us, I can curate your experience, right? I can figure out what's best for you, because if you look at your business, these are all the different things you need to do. Some people might want to grow a team, social media, build their brand. And based on who you are and what you need, we can tell you what you need, where you need to go. So how exactly does that happen? Curated 90-day experience. Now, we will be sending everyone intake forms. Now, based on the intake form, once a week, we're going to send you recommendations on what workshops you should go to. All these classes are live Zooms just like this. They're all recorded, and everyone gets access to our entire library. Now, why do we say 90 days? Because I know that in month 4, 5, and 6, it's going to be different than month 1, 2, and 3. That second half, we're going to be a heavy focus on business planning and ending the year strong, making sure we have a strong first quarter. But based on your accomplishments, things change. What you sign up for today might not be the same thing you want 90 days from now. So in the beginning, you all have an intake form. We as a team are going to go through that, and we're going to curate tracks for people. But now, when people are on similar tracks, this is how we can build community, collaboration. There'll be accountability groups, live meetup opportunities. And this is where all of this starts to come together. So this is where the Can I Be Your Coach comes in. So I can't do this alone. I have an entire group of other coaches and mentors. Now, these are some of the most successful people in their industries And they're all here with the same combined goal, is to help you have a better business, a better life, and ultimately stay ahead of change. Now, if you look at ROI, if you sell $1 million house, it's an 838% return. Now, when you start thinking about this, real estate's an annual business. And if you do show up to all of our sessions, same way we did with the blueprint, I ask people, you stay in for 6 months, you make a good faith effort to show up to the sessions and implement what you learned. At the end of 6 months, if you feel you did not get a return on your investment, you can ask us for a refund or refund your money. I know there's no person that could sit through all these trainings and not grow their business and not sell minimum one more house. So look, it's really simple. If you would like to join, it's $497 per month. If you want to pay in full, it's $2,500. If you have a team, it's $750 a month or $3,500 pay in full. We have 250 slots, and once they're done, it's closed, and our whole focus is on building community and personalizing the coaching experience as much as you can. We understand it's a group, but through the extra efforts of learning what you want, where you are in your business, where you want to go next, what your goals are, we can help make this feel a lot more personalized, where it's not like you're looking at a calendar like, where should I go and what should I do? We want to tell you, I want to say, here's where you should go. Here's what you should learn. 90 days. Here's your progress. Here's how you finish the year strong. There's going to be lots of different bonus sessions. If you know anything about me, my favorite thing is live events. And once I have my own space that doesn't require an office, we'll be having random pop-ups where people could come visit us more frequently than probably my team realizes. Yeah. So that's simple. I just wanted to share that with you, as you guys have been with us for the past 11 weeks. And it's something I'd really like to offer to all of you first. So some of these things, like our clients sharing their lead generation strategies, that this heavy focus on community and the person cap, these are all things that we agreed as a team over this past weekend. But I wanted to share it with all of you first, as there's about 200 of us here that have just gone through this journey together. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. And if not, we hope you choose to continue with us. And if you choose not to continue with us, we hope you take what you do either way and actually implement it. Life is about making the right choices for yourself. And when I think about choices, the way you time block your schedule, the way that you focus on implementing what you learn, and also really what you do, right? Like someone said, why'd you choose $500 for the program? Like most people spend $500 a month going out to eat and they'll never think twice about it. So I think it's a reasonable investment where, if you charge somebody $50 or $97, they won't even show up. $500 is a good enough number where you do have some skin in the game, where you do show up. And look, everything you need to grow your business will be in one place. So we wanted to take like the guesswork out of growth and everything else and talk about going backwards and forwards. And really, in terms of that whole I have a dream thing, it's, look, you wake up over the weekend, someone sends you a list of things you should go to. You pick the ones in your schedule that work best and you just go. And your whole job is to do the work and focus on your clients, not try to figure out how you put all these things together. So that's what I wanted to share with all y'all today. So Jen, I hope you have a great day. And can we use our 10 by 10 funds for this? So we have, through the 10 by 10, what we decided to do is this. If you're a team leader, you could sign up for 5 months of one-on-one coaching, and we'll throw this program in for free for you and your team. If you're an individual agent, you could sign up for 4 months of coaching through the marketplace, and this could be an add-on. We're working with the marketplace to have options for this, but they have a cap on how many people we can do this. So I don't know where we are for a cap. So if you're interested in using a 10 by 10 funds, please send me an email today so that we can add you to that list, because once their number closes out, there's nothing we can do. Thank you, Kim Kelly. Anyone else have any questions about this or the session from today? You guys are all very quiet. What are you guys thinking about right now? I always find when we get to these moments or thinking about what you just talked about, is this for me? Am I going to be able to go to the sessions? Am I going to get a good return out of this? And should I do this? Should I not do this? What should I implement? Have I implemented what I learned? Like, look, if you're stuck and you're thinking about this, I think that's really where the next step of guidance comes. Like, here's where you show up, here's where you go, here's what you do, here's the accountability session that follows it. And if you go through that continuity, that's the big part that's missing in all this implementation, a continuity of the conversation. Very cool new glasses. Colin saying very new cool glasses because she picked them out. So thank you for helping me with that. Anybody else have any questions? It's good to determine if I'm willing to commit to the changes. Natalia, I will unmute you in 1 second. Melanie, just by being here, I know without even thinking you are committed to the changes, right? And change isn't easy, change is complicated. And the thing about change that you want to do is just one small thing, right? It's small actions done consistently produce oversized results. One of the biggest mistakes agents make is they think they have to change everything all at once. Someone's not going to the gym. They think they have to start going 7 days a week when they're not even going for 5 minutes. Doesn't make sense. So just take what you're learning here and continue your journey and go through small bite-sized pieces. That's it. Natalia.
Yes, hi, Chirag. So my question was, I got a little confused. So when a client seller says, well, Joe Smith charges 4%, what makes you, Natalia, different? Are we not supposed to start like justifying what we're doing, saying, well, Joe doesn't do this kind of marketing, and but I do? Like,
I would say to him, I would not talk about what Joe does. I would say, hey, so, when you say what's different, what specifically are you looking for in an agent? And let me go back and create some more clarity around those areas that are most important to you. See what's important to them and give them what they want. Right.
So just flip it back around immediately.
Flip it back around. But here's the whole thing. If you follow our whole sales process, you'll know what's important to them. And you'll know what to focus on. Right. When they say Joe does this and you don't do that, it means that during your presentation or your pitch, you were not clear on what you offered. Patricia's question was, I need time blocking. Accountability groups. Do you know one of the fun things we have is we have these accountability groups where people literally show up and we find groups of people that need time blocking help and they end up doing the work with everybody together. Yep, Rich, if you signed up and you want to pay the difference for your team, just send me an email and we'll get that done today. And by the way, for the team option, it's an unlimited option. You can use this for recruiting. You could add on 10 people, 20 people. It's also, there's admin training in here. So for people who are thinking of hiring an admin, we could train them for you. All right, everybody, I have to jump. With love in my heart, I love you all. And I hope everyone has a great day, a great end to the week. And guys, be inspired by change because there's opportunity everywhere. We just have to be smart. We have to be strategic and we have to get out of our comfort zone and take action. So I'll see you guys all next week. Thank you guys. Bye.